Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So today we will build a small project based on CRUD operations. Okay. What is this CRUD? We will understand that. So in order to build an application, build any Java application. So nowadays we are using the framework which is a Spring framework, right? So let us say that this is the Java backend. So we are using Spring framework to build the backend application, right? So there can be any front end. Okay, I mean you may use the browser to communicate, and you may use the any other client. Okay, it could be JavaScript to communicate. Okay, and it could be any other client. Let us say that this client can be any other application. Let us say that Python as well. So this browser and this JavaScript and this Python, so they want to communicate with the backend layer. So I am assuming that this browser is a front end, JavaScript is a front end, Python is a front end, and any mobile that you take, that is also a front end. They are trying to communicate with the backend layer. So Spring Boot framework works on the Java programming language. Java language. Okay, so here you have a different language. The backend is working on a different language, and the browser will work on a different language. Let us say that HTTP communication, JavaScript a very different language, Python a very different language. So in order to communicate, okay, between two applications, in our example it is front end and the back end. So I mean there is a lot of communication gap. You recognize? Do you feel that there is a lot of communication different? Yes or no? Communication gap is there, right? Because this is Java and this is JavaScript, this is Java and this is browser, this is Java and this is Python. So these languages needs to have a one common language so that the data transfer can happen. Yes or no? Hello, are able to understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Huh? So in order to achieve that, so they have introduced a concept of REST APIs. I will give you a small introduction about REST APIs. The abbreviation of REST API is very simple: representational. Representation state transfer. Representation state transfer. Okay, so we know everyone knows very well that so Java is going to communicate on the basis of objects. Yes or no? Java, it's the object programming language. So the state, when I say state are nothing but the properties. For example, instead of saying this is an object, let us say that we have a class. Let us say that we have a simple class, class student. The student has a name in the form of string, and the student has the ID in the form of integer, right? And definitely the Java language would create an object for the student. So when I say state, okay, when I say state, the name is a state and the ID is that state. All the properties that holds a data, that is potential enough to hold a data, is called as state. In this case, okay, so this is this student class. This student class is going to be stored. The state is going to be stored in the form of objects. Okay, you create an object, and inside this object you would have a name and you would have an ID. Okay, so these objects are represented. I mean the values of objects. I'm talking about the data. I'm talking about data inside the object. Okay, the state is represented inside the object. I mean there is a memory for this. When you create an object, there is a memory. It is holding a memory in your system. Okay, but But if you want to transfer this object, if you want to transfer this object to the browser, or to the JavaScript, to the Python, any application, you want to transfer this object, right? So you would not transfer the object, you would transfer the state of the object, in any representation. When I say representation, the common representation that we are going to use nowadays is what? The JSON representation. What is a JSON representation? Okay, the objects, okay, the attributes of an object, the state of an object would be represented, would be transferred, would be represented in the JSON form. What does it mean? What are the values inside this object? You have the name value, okay, and you can give any name. Okay, let us say that the name is Balaji, comma, and you have the ID value, and you can give any number. Okay, the state of an object is getting represented in the form of JSON. Internally, there will be a layer in between, there will be a clean layer in between the front end application and the back end application. This clean layer, this middle layer, I can say that this middle layer is going to do what? It is going to transfer the state of an object to any other representation. In our case, JSON representation. JSON representation is nothing but it is one of the, what we call it as the how the data is going to get transferred through the internet or between two systems. This is how the data is going to transfer. Okay, Java object is getting represented. Okay, that is what it's called as what? REST APIs. Representation state transfer. State is getting transferred to get it represented in the form of JSON. Okay, this JSON will be consumed by the browser. This JSON can be consumed by the JavaScript. This JSON can be consumed by the Python. Okay, if it is consumed by the browser will do rendering accordingly so that it will be displayed beautifully in their console. If it is consumed by JavaScript internally it is going to consume it in such a way that it is going to convert this to the respective JavaScript object. Python, it is going to consume it in the form of JSON and is going to convert it to the respective Python object. Are you able to follow what I am trying to say? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Idea is very simple. See, for example, if I am from Tamil Nadu and you are from Andhra Pradesh, so I speak Tamil and you speak Telugu. If we do not have any common language to do the communication, it would be very difficult, right? So here the common language that I am talking about is what? The JSON. JSON is going to be a common language. So that's why in the Spring Boot application, in the yesterday's class, I was telling you, remember, okay, there is a Jackson library. You remember this or not?
Yes, sir.
This Jackson library, what is the purpose of Jackson library? Convert object, state of an object to JSON, or the vice versa, converts JSON to object. JSON to object. What is in JSON? JSON is what? A JavaScript object notation. Nothing but any data that gets represented in the form of key value. For example, if you want to perfectly convey this message through the Java object, for example, let's say that you have created an object. Okay, this is the Java object, clean Java object. So name is something like ABC. Okay, and ID is something like 1, 2, 3. I can say that this is completely a Java object. Let us say that it is an object of student. Okay, if I want to transport this data, to the browser, from Java application to the laptop browser, to the Chrome browser, there will be a middleware. Middleware is what? This is going to convert the Java object to the equivalent JSON. Equivalent JSON means opening bracket, a closing bracket, name will be tagged as name itself, and the value is going to be represented in the form of string ABC, and ID will be ID itself, not equal to, it is semicolon, ID, and any number will be in the form of 1, 2, 3. Okay, object will be converted to JSON, and the JSON will be consumed by the browser. If you are using a browser, it will be consumed by the browser. It is going to display that accordingly. Able to follow? This is called as This is called as the REST API. REST API is what? It is a protocol. It is a protocol. The what we call it as the expansion of the acronym of REST is what? Representational state transfer. When the state of an object is getting represented in the JSON format, you go for REST APIs. Able to follow? It is a communication between, can be the communication between two subsystems, or when you want to transport the object to a network, you do serialization. Okay, but in the receiving side, they accept it, they convert that object to a JSON, and they consume that, because these Java objects cannot be understood by the browser directly. So what they do, what is being done internally, it is getting converted to JSON. Then it is given to browser. The Java object cannot be understood by JavaScript. So it will be converted to JSON. Then it is going to consume that accordingly. Are you able to follow? Yes, no?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
One more thing, I am talking about object to JSON. Okay, even if your Java application wants to consume a data, okay, you can pass only the JSON object, something like name equal to name there, and age something like 25. Okay, so you can push the JSON object, push the JSON representation to the Java Spring Boot by using REST APIs. Then this JSON will be converted to the equivalent Java object. This JSON will be converted to what? The JSON will be converted to the equivalent Java object, so that your Java application can understand. Remove the, these things will not be there. Are you able to follow? So this is being taken care by what? This is being taken care by the Jackson library inside. So these conversions are automatic. You do not have to worry about this. If you say we are perfect with that, we can proceed further. Are you good with this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now, so even if you are building a big project, no matter what the size of the project is, this concept is going to be applicable for the if your project is small, or if your project is a medium scale, or if your project is large scale. This concept that we are going to discuss. Okay, anyway, we are aware of that. For now, we are going to use the browser as the client, or mobile phone as the client. Now you know how to use the mobile phone as a client, right? You have done that experiment, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we go with the browser. Okay, our browser wants to communicate to the Spring Boot application. Focus here. This is the Spring Boot application, backend application, very big application, Spring Boot application. Okay, so Spring Boot application, how the communication has to happen is, inside the Spring Boot application, again the Spring Boot is going to communicate to the database. Focus here. Your Spring Boot application has to get communicated to the database, the real database. So without database, we cannot do anything, right? Every storage, every valid data has to get stored or persisted permanently inside the database. Yes or no? Now are able to separate, see, you are able to separate the layers. Okay, this is the front end, which is browser as of now, and your front end wants to communicate to the backend layer, which is the Spring Boot. I can also say Java. Okay, and inside the Spring Boot, the first layer has to be what? The first layer has to be the controller layer. What is it? Controller. What is the use of this controller is, they consume what? They consume the data from the client. So inside the controller, you define a class. Inside this class, you define methods which is going to what? Which is going to expose some endpoints. So the endpoints can be like /add, /add, or /transfer, or remove. Any meaningful endpoint that you are going to declare, that has to be declared in the which layer? Control layer. Controller layer. Okay, it is going to be the it is going to consume, it is going to act as the REST APIs. It is going to act as the REST APIs, means the incoming request will be accepted only by this controller layer. So you can define any class, guys. You can define any class and you can give any name, but annotate that class with the @ REST controller annotation. Now you know what is the REST controller, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry for the screen is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Now controller means you expose the endpoints, guys. You expose the endpoints, and this is the first layer in your backend application where you receive all the incoming requests. Very simple. Controller, you're going to control everything. Okay, and you separate the business logic in a layer which is called as what? The service layer. Okay, I mean from browser the request goes to the controller, right? Controller is going to talk to the service layer. Again, the service layer is a class. To define a class, inside that you define some methods. You will have the business logic, the actual business logic that has to be placed inside the service layer, because this is how you need to separate. This is a design pattern, guys. This is one of the design pattern. It is same for the production environment also, right? Controller is meant to consume the payload, or consume the request, and after consuming it will also expose the endpoints. It is acting like it is going to act like the first layer in the Spring Boot application. Service is like you separate the business logic from the control to service. You will add the business logic actually here. Okay, and if you want to communicate to the database, you don't communicate to the database directly. Okay, instead of that, you will have an abstract layer which is called as what? The repository layer. Right? Repository layer. This repository layer will communicate to the database, which is going to be what? Which is not going to be part of the Spring Boot application. This database is going to be a separate entity, I can say. Right? And again, from the database, the response will be transported to repository, and again repository is going to transfer the response to service is going to transfer the response to controller, and the controller is going to transfer the response to the browser. Okay, and there is a language agnostic layer here, which is what? This layer, the layer that you see here is what? This is the language agnostic layer. So here this layer actually transporting the data in the form of JSON. For now, there are many ways, but JSON is highly preferable. Which means browser, if the browser wants to send the request, it can send in the form of JSON. And if the browser wants to receive the request, it has to be in the form of JSON. Okay, this JSON is going to be for both browser as well as for the Spring Boot as well. I mean the front end as well as the back end as well. Okay. Actually, these systems will do what? Will actually do the conversion internally. It receives in the form of JSON. Equally, the controller will convert it to respective Java object, and it's going to receive in the form of JSON. It's going to get converted to the Java object, right? And these Java objects are going to play the major role in the remaining layers. Okay, this Java object, and again, this Java object will be converted to what? Converted to the row of a database, and we will see that again. This object will be converted to the database row. Okay, and it is going to get stored in the database. So in the reverse direction, okay, controller receives in the form of object, and when the response is given back to the browser, okay, this gets kind of converted back to JSON once again, okay, and it will be given to the browser. Able to follow? What I mean to say is this layer is what the language agnostic means. Only the communication is in the form of JSON representation. Able to follow this basic thing?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Keep this in mind. Okay, keep this in mind, and we will build an application. Okay, today we are not going to focus on this part, database layer. I will tell you why I am not focusing this part. First of all, understand these two layers. You will understand these two layers, controller and service layer. Why I am telling you this is Again, in the REST APIs, we need to understand few more things, right? HTTP verbs. You need to get a lot of knowledge on HTTP verbs. When I say HTTP verbs, there is a get request, there is a post request, there is a put request, okay, and there is the delete request, the common request, common HTTP request, okay. So it is not like when you say HTTP slash, localhost semicolon 8080 slash some endpoint. Let me say get endpoint. Okay, this again, this HTTP has some internal definitions or internal verbs. This HTTP can be a get call, this HTTP can be a post call, this HTTP can be a put call, this HTTP can be a delete call. So these are the HTTP verbs. So what is this get? Okay, any communication from the front end to the back end. So in our case, browser to the Springboard. It can be a HTTP request. Again, HTTP get call. When I say get, means the request is trying to retry something from the server. It's trying to, what get call is nothing but it's going to, okay, you are sending the request from the browser, right? So the get call is nothing but it's trying to get something from the browser. I mean, from the, what we call it as, from the backend, from the server, trying to get something from the server. I mean, it will not post any data. I mean, it will not give any data. Just it will hit an endpoint. Okay, it is expecting some data from the server. Post means the browser will transfer some, give some data. The browser will push some data. When I say push some data to the server, which means you want to store something, okay, the data needs to be pushed from the browser, right? From the front end, you need to push the data, right? Push the data, and data goes to controller and service and repository, and at last it is going to store to get into the database. How this communication gets happen? Only because of this HTTP verb. Post means the request will be in such a way that you will send the request along with a payload. Able to follow? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Put means, okay, again, already you will update the existing resource. Delete means you will delete the existing resource. You will see this one by one. To understand this better, I am just disconnecting this repository layer today. Right? Let us really develop a small project. So Spring Starter project. Okay. And what is the dependency that we require to add now? Hello? What is the one main dependency that we require to add? Dependency.
Inwards.
Spring Web dependency. Good. Spring Web dependency. Very important. Okay. Mav and charge, everything is going to be same. Spring Web. Because this dependency is going to get you the Tomcat server, and so many things happens behind the scenes. We have discussed these things clearly in the yesterday's class, right? Previous session. Okay, the application is being developed. We will understand the HTTP verbs. Do you aware of Postman? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
You know Postman, right?
Yes, sir.
So we use Postman to test this APIs, okay? Because browser will only support, okay? The browser will only support the GET request, guys. You cannot, it will not support the other HTTP verbs. I will tell you why it will not support. In order to support that, you should really depend upon the HTML and JavaScript languages. Let it be a third operation. Okay, and I'm right clicking here. Okay, since I'm talking about different layers, okay, controller, okay, let me create the controller class. Before that, I will create one class which is the model class. I will tell you. Right click here, new package. So I will just use model. Model means the data carrier. Model package. Inside this, I'm going to add a class, and the name of the class is, let us say, the account class. Name of the class is account class. Okay. This account class, I'm going to have three properties. One is string let us say that integer id property, string name property, and double balance property. I have three properties inside my account class. So let it be private. So we have to generate the constructors and setters, right? Source, generate constructors using fields. Source, generate getters and setters. Source, generate toString method. Okay, so I will also create a no or constructor. Okay, so account class. So this account class it is what it is, the simple model class which is going to act as the data carrier. So when the front end is posting a data in the form of JSON representation, okay, there should be an entity to capture that data, right? Let's say that the JSON, the front end is going to transmit the data like the representation, JSON representation, right? Okay, name, Balaji, and what is it? ID, name, balance. Okay, it has to match the variables that you have defined in the Java class. ID, name, balance. ID, let me say one, name, okay, and balance. Balance would be something like 100.00. Okay, this is the JSON representation that will be pushed from the front end, pushed from the client. Okay, and it is being pushed to the backend, which is a Spring Boot. Okay, so in order to accept this variable, so there should be a class, right? So to accept these variables, I am using a class which is the account class. So my account class will consume ID, name, and balance, and the objects are created accordingly. Able to follow?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
JSON to very simple. No need to keep any confusion here. Right? Model class is done. Let me create another package, new package. So I'm naming this package as controller. Okay, I'm going this in the very organized fashion. Okay, I'm taking a class. Now I'm naming this class as account control. Account control. A controller is going to act as the starting point, right? So I am naming this with a threat risk controller. Okay, and I'm taking another package, new package, form.test.service package. Okay. So I'm going to start developing from the service package. Here I'm saying account service. Now focus here. So service. So we are just going to end this with the service package. So if you go by our diagram, okay, you have controller service. Okay, we are going to start developing from the service layer. First, we'll develop the service layer, then we will focus on the control layer. First, we'll develop the business logic. After developing the business logic, we'll try to give the endpoints to the business logic so that our browser can communicate. Right? So in the service layer, I am keeping the code I am annotating with the thread service. So this is a very specific annotation. So when the framework sees this annotation, now it clearly knows that the developer is trying to keep the business logic inside the account service class. Very, very specific annotation, not the general annotation. If you want, you can keep a thread component also. But the component is very, very general. You can keep it for any class where you want to register those classes and as a Spring Boot. But when you say service, it is very specific that this class is particularly meant to hold the business logic. Are you getting or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now see, I'm taking list of integer, not list, let us say map, let us take map of integer comma account. Okay, accounts equal to new. So I'm just creating an in-memory, okay, in-memory database. So I'm assuming that the line number 10 is going to be the database. It is going to store the values in memory. Means the key is integer, key is in the form of integer, value is in the form of accounts. So this is how you can imagine this thing. So let us visualize that. Okay, I'm using it as an in-memory, guys. Map does not allow the duplicate key. So this is the key and this is the value. Okay, account itself is the value. Okay, the table will be in the form of like this, key value pair. Okay, if the key is 1, if you give the key as 1, the value would be like the account object. What is the account object? 1 comma can be any name, Balaji comma the account balance. Right, so this is the key as the integer and the value is in the form of accounts. If you fetch the key 1, you will get this value. And again, if you load another information 2, okay, you give the key 2, value is going to be 2 comma 2 comma 100. The question is how we are going to populate this account. That is the question. So I'm using it as a database. I'm assuming that this is going to be a database, temporary database. Are you able to follow?
Yes.
For the first time, if your understanding is going to be very tricky, trust me, after completing this class, you will get this 100%. Okay, give me some time, you will get this. I'm using this as the in-memory database because we are not going to connect with the database today because we need to understand the HTTP words. Okay, this is what in-memory database. So what I'm doing inside this, I'm keeping a method, service method. Okay, public. Let me say public list of account get all accounts. The method name is get all accounts. Okay, and the return type is of list type. Okay, what I'm doing is, so whenever I call this, okay, whenever I call this method get all accounts method, I should see in the browser that all the accounts that are stored in this account variable should be displayed. Right? Whenever I am calling this particular method, I should see in the browser. I should see in the browser that all the accounts has to be displayed. Okay, how can I write a logic for that? So I will create a list of account equal to get all accounts equal to new array list. So I'm creating an empty array list. Okay, I'm using a enhanced for loop. My enhanced for loop is going to fetch what? Going to fetch the values of this map. So this is the accounts variable. Dot, it is going to fetch the values. Okay, this is of map type, guys. This accounts is of the complete map type. From this map, I'm expecting only the values. So this is the key, this is the value. So every time, okay, the first value will be stored inside this temporary variable. I will take that and I will add this value inside what? Inside this account object. Okay. I'm just separating accounts from this map. Very simple. I'm separating only the accounts from this map. And I'm returning this get all account. So this is the logic that I have defined in the service layer. Whenever this method is getting invoked, it's going to give the list of all accounts that are stored inside this in-memory database, which is map. I'm using it here. Okay, the service layer has been developed successfully. Now the control layer. inside this controller layer. Okay, now I want to call the method of what? I want to call the method inside the service layer. So I need to do what? I need to use this as a relationship upon service. I need to annotate this with auto here so that the dependency will be injected. Field injection I am doing. Okay, and I am writing a method here. Public list of account equal to get all accounts. Okay. Using this variable, and I'm calling the get all accounts of the service method. Okay, I'm returning this. Okay. So this is the REST controller. So I need to define the HTTP verb there. Okay, from we can expect from the client that okay, this is going to be the get call. Okay, the client can expect the the client can push the get call. Get call means retrieving data from the server. So I will annotate that with the get mapping to expose an endpoint. Endpoint could be like slash get all get accounts. Okay, let me run this. I will show you the flow. What is this? Account service, account controller. This is the main class. File run as input application. Okay, let us start the server. The server Tomcat server started on port number 8080. Now let us use the same thing. HTTP localhost. And the endpoint here is going to be the endpoint that you have exposed here. In the account controller, you exposed an endpoint slash get all accounts. Slash get all accounts. If I run this, you get empty. Why? Because as of now there is no data in the in memory. No data in memory. But the call is this is the get call. Get call means what? The client is trying to retrieve data from the server. Okay, starting from the controller, this is a get mapping. Okay, and the endpoint is get accounts. So from here, the control is dedicated to the service layer. From the service layer, the map is getting converted to the list. Okay, and the data is getting returned. For now, you did not add any account. But I also want to add some accounts. If I want to add some accounts, okay, here I am talking about the second HTTP request, which is what the post request. Okay, the post mapping that I am talking about, the post request. Okay, I need to add the data from the front end, from the browser. How I can add that? Very simple. I need to develop a method and I need to expose an endpoint in the controller layer. For the service layer, I need to write the business logic. First, let's start writing the business logic in the service layer. So this is the service layer. How I can write a business logic? Public. Okay, I am taking the return type of string and add account as the method. Okay, so I am expecting something from the client, right? I'm expecting something from the client. So inside this parameter, I'm expecting the account object from the client. I'm expecting the account object from the client. So I'm using that in the parameter. Okay. Then what I'm doing after accepting the account object, I want to add this account object inside this map variable. I want to add this account object inside this map variable. Okay, this account object would be represented. I mean, from the front end, it would be like the simple JSON, right? From the front end, the account object would be like the simple JSON, like this. You get ID, you get name, and you get balance. right? Firstly, I will retrieve what? I will retrieve the ID account dot get ID. Okay, this is same, no? Okay, okay, sorry. Okay, understood. Accounts is of map type. Accounts dot. So I can use the put method to populate the key and the value. The key is going to be the same key. Account dot get ID. And the value is going to be what? The value is going to be the account itself. Okay. And after doing this, I will be returning something like the account of account dot get name in add success. So a business logic. I did not do any manipulation here. Very simple. I will be accepting the account object from the front end. Okay, front end will be transferring the object in the form of JSON representation. So this is JSON representation, and our Spring Boot application is going to consume this, and this gets converted to the Java object. This gets converted to the Java object. Again, it is an account object. So controller is going to receive this as a Java object, like the ID, name field, and the balance field. Okay, and this Java object is what this was the account object, right? Account Java object. Okay, ID is one, name is something like Balaji, and the balance would be something like 100.00. Any balance I'm taking. So after consuming the Java object, I'm using this map. So I'm pushing this account object and I'm placing it in the value. Okay, firstly what I'm doing is uh, I'm using this reference variable accounts. Accounts is of what type? Map type. Accounts dot. I'm using the put method. So put method will accept the key and value, right? So the key I'm taking it from the ID from the account object itself. Okay, account dot get ID. I'm using the same ID as the key. Using the same ID as the key, and I'm populating the account object. Comma, I'm populating the account object. So that the data will be represented like this in the hash map. Right? One entry will be stored like this. If the second entry is like 2 Sudhir 100, okay, and again 2 will be the integer key, the value is going to be this Sudhir account object. So that is what this method is going to do. Adding the data. This is how the service layer has been built to add an account. Okay, let us come back to the controller. From the controller, public string, okay, add account. Okay, return what? Account service dot add account. Okay. So here you have to pass. You need to. I'm using an annotation. Focus here. I'm using the request body annotation. The new annotation that I'm introducing, request body, and this request body is of the account type. Okay, it means you need to pass the request in the JSON representation from the front end. When you say request body, okay, you need to pass the request in the form of JSON representation from the front end. How it has to be represented? It has to be represented as similar to the account object. Okay, what are the values inside the account object? You have these three attributes. Focus here. You have these three attributes. So these three attributes are represented in the model class, account model class. Okay. So this is inside the Springboard. But if you want to push this data, okay, from the front end or from the client, you need to use the JSON representation. In order to do that, you use the opening and the closing parentheses. Use the same variable name ID. So here also ID. Okay, semicolon, pass1, comma. What is the second attribute? String name, right? Name, semicolon, or colon, comma, any name, comma. Last one is what? Balance. Balance, semicolon, or dot 00. Okay. So this is the payload. This is the payload that you push it from the front end. This is a payload that you push it from the front end. In our case, we will use the Postman. Yeah, there is a Postman. It is very easy to download. Okay, if you want, you can download this to test these APIs. Okay, so what you are doing, you want to push this data from the Postman. Postman is a kind of you can use it to test your APIs because you cannot test the post method inside the browser. So you will have to use the Postman tool. Browser only support the get calls, not the post calls. You depend upon the Postman tool. Okay. So you push this data to the backend layer, which is Springboard. Controller is going to receive this, right? When the controller is receiving this JSON representation will be converted to the Java object. The question is, which method is going to accept this Java object? On top of that method, you need to annotate that with what? Annotate that with @postman. This is an HTTP verb, which means this method is capable enough to accept the incoming payload from the browser. Okay, and you can define the meaningful endpoint. Okay, add account. What happens? Go back and see what happens. This JSON will be converted to Java object. Okay, when inside the Java object, you will be having the same ID, same name, and same balance. Right? This will be sent to the method that is annotated with the PostMapping. What is a method that is annotated with the PostMapping in our example? Add account is the method that is annotated with the PostMapping, and this is the endpoint. Okay, this method will accept this account object and put it inside this account variable. Okay, from here I am transporting this account object to the service layer. This is what add account. The service layer will consume this, and first it will segregate the ID and use it as the key, and also keep the object of account as the value here, so that in-memory data will be populated just like this. Able to follow?
Yes, sir.
Post mapping. Little tricky, yeah. Let us test this, you'll understand. Okay, let me close this. At least, so everything is ready. Business method inside the service class, right? And controller method inside the controller class, REST controller class. Right? Let me run this data operation. Okay. Eight zero 8080 started. So now I am using the Postman to test what? To test the get HTTP web. The get call. So I can select a get or post, put, patch, anything here. Okay. This time I am selecting the get. You can give the endpoint here. So we know this is the generic endpoint, generic URL slash the endpoint for the get call. What is the endpoint that you have defined here for the get accounts, right? So when I just give get accounts, definitely you will get the empty response. Okay, response is empty because the data, the in-memory is not populated. Now I want to use the post. Okay, I'm changing it to post. When I change it to post, I need to send the body. I need to send the body. To send the body, I will be using this. Okay. Please ensure that okay, the variable names are, I mean, the JSON keys are same as the variable names of the account object. Okay, this is account object. ID should be same, name should be same, balance should be same. Okay. ID, name, balance. Okay, I'm giving the ID as 1. I'm giving the name as Suresh. I'm saying the balance is going to be something like okay, 750. This is the post call. You are using a postman. Postman is just like a client, okay, just like a client. Because in the browser you cannot test the, you can test only the get calls, but not the post call, because you do not have an option to send the payload. To test our APIs, we generally go with the postman. Even in the real-time projects also, you will get access to this postman and you will test this your APIs through this postman. This is a payload that you're trying to send. Okay, and give the right URI, means the endpoint should be the same as the endpoint that you have declared. What is endpoint? The account controller. No, add account. Okay. Add account. If I just send this along with the payload, you get to see the account of Suresh has been added successfully. Which means now your map, okay, what is happening? This JSON, you guys focus here. This is the JSON representation. You are using the postman to submit the data to the backend application using the postman tool. Again, this postman tool is also called as the client. And you are being very, very specific. You are saying HTTP localhost 8080. This is very generic, right? Slash endpoint is add account. Okay, and this is the backend layer. The backend layer. And the first entry point is what? Controller is the entry point, right? You have the controller class account controller. Firstly, since it is sending a payload to the browser, it will check for the methods that has annotated with PostMapping. After that, it will also check the value of that postmap value that you have passed inside this in the parameters of this postmap. The value should be same as this account add account. So if these things are matching, that respective method will get executed. Okay, the question is how this data, how this JSON will be consumed. Okay, this JSON will be transferred to the controller. So there is a Jackson library here, right? Before that, that Jackson library will come in the picture. It's going to create the equivalent Java object. So ID becomes Suresh. One. Name becomes Suresh. Balance becomes 750. Okay. So this Java object will be pushed what? Will be pushed to the parameters of this method. What is the parameter of our method? Parameter of the method request body, which means accept the request body. Accept the request body. So account, this is a request body. Okay, that what we call it as the JSON representation is converted to the object and it is stored in this account variable. And if you just fetch this account variable, the object, the converted object that we have here, this converted object will get the variable name as what? Variable name as account. Okay, and you are transmitting this account to what? Again, you are transmitting this account object to the service layer. Okay, and from here you are extracting the ID. What is the ID? 1 is the ID. Extracting the ID and putting it in the map key. ID becomes 1 and value becomes what? Value becomes the account object itself is becoming the value, means 1 comma Suresh comma 750. So this data is stored in the in-memory map in memory. How to confirm that? Again do the get call. Now you will be getting to see what? You will be getting to see the data retrieved from the server. Are you able to follow?
Yes, sir.
Again, do the post call with a different value. This time, post call to second number two, Ramesh. Ramesh, let's say 7,500. Account of Ramesh has been added successfully. Right. Again, do the get call. Able to see? Hello. Yes. No. Getting up.
Yes, sir.
We are just trying to understand the HTTP verbs. Okay. Now we have completed discussing about get mapping and post mapping, right? And you can use there are a few more HTTP verbs. If you go and to the postman and see, you have something like the the put mapping is there. You have the patch mapping, you have the delete mapping, you have the add mapping, you have the object mapping. Only these mappings are used in any big Java project. Apart from this, you don't see any other mapping there. Let's first get the idea about get the idea about the JSON representation conversion, which is getting converted to what? Converted to the Java object. Okay. Everything is taken care by this REST control. This is going to act as the entry point. No matter how the request that you are sending in the browser is always the get request. What happens if I send the post request here? Add account is the post request. I just send it. Okay, it will not allow you to do that. It says method not allowed. Only you can do the post mapping in the except for get mapping. Okay, remaining HTTP verbs can be used in the post map tools like post. Even in the real-time project also, when you go to any company, they use this postman. It's the backend APIs. Very Spring Boot.